DFS Soccer podcast from dailyfantasylobby.com.
Hey everybody, and welcome to dailyfantasylobby.com's weekly English Fantasy Premier League preview. I'm Christy, and as you can probably see, not in the office today. I'm on my couch. So I'm sure you're all missing the Partick Thistle bit of memorabilia behind us. So I've got the closest thing that I can find, my red and white Aberdeen scarf there, so you don't feel too left out and you don't miss the Partick Thistle strip too much. Fortunately for you guys, we've got David on the line. David is the CEO, the main man for dailyfantasylobby.com. Hi David, how are you doing?
Oh, good morning, Christy.
Are you missing me in the office?
A little bit, yeah. I must say, and I'm missing that scarf.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that the sort of 83 Gothenburg Cup Winners' Cup commemorative sort of whatever the word is, memorable scarf or something?
Alas, it's not. It was one bought from a stall for £3 outside the cup final last year or something.
Is it a half and half scarf with Inverness Kelly?
As if I would ever wear a half and half scarf. No, it's 100% red and white, 100% low budget, because I'm perpetuating the stereotype of the Aberdonian, one of the stereotypes of the Aberdonian, and
Well, let's hope it brings us some luck.
Well, we're going to need it, because perfect segue into our team for this week. Actually, I say ours. David has no part of this week. This was 100% me. We decided that we would mix it up a little bit this week. You guys have seen plenty of us playing on DraftKings. You've seen, to a lesser extent, you've seen some of us playing on Mondogo, but what you haven't seen so far is the dailyfantasylobby.com guys playing on DraftGoal. Now, DraftGoal is a US-facing daily fantasy site focused on soccer, and it's got some really cool games. So we thought we would make it the focus of our podcast this week, and so we've picked our very first team there. So I'm bringing it up on the screen now. You can run the rule over it, and David, flame away. Take the mic all you like. Let's hear it.
Okay.
Let's start with the goalkeeper.
Right, okay. Well, the rules are different though, aren't they? So it's not like, it's not the same scoring rules, obviously, as Mondogo and DraftKings. So there's some quite, I wouldn't say subtle, there's some quite big differences.
There definitely are, yeah.
From what I understand. So, like we can start with the goalkeeper, obviously the whole keeper, but how about you use the example of one of the players, like, I don't know, I think Martin Skrtel would be a good example. How about you use that example?
Yeah.
And you sort of tell us a little bit about the differences in scoring.
Certainly, yeah. Martin Skrtel is actually the perfect example here, because, if you really can't be bothered retaining all the information, all the intricacies of the scoring system, I personally, as a poker player, I like to use this little shortcut. It's called heuristics. Heuristics are rules of thumb, okay? They're not flawless. They're just little mental shortcuts that helps you remember things. And my heuristic for the comparison between DraftGoal and DraftKings is simple. On DraftGoal, you get points for more things, okay? You can accumulate more points. There are more measures, there are more actions that accumulate points. So for example, I've just brought it up in my Evernote here. Defending wise, you get points for things like block shots, recovered balls, interceptions. You also get good points for clean sheets. You get, obviously, you lose a lot of points for goals being conceded, but that's consistent across all sites. But in general, there are just more ways, more criteria, more ways of accumulating points on DraftGoal. So, perfect example here is Martin Skrtel. Let's take a look at him on DraftGoal. Martin Skrtel, Liverpool, salary 10.5k or so. FPPG is 8, okay? by DraftGoal sort of definitions, 8 is pretty solid for a defender, whereas on DraftKings, Martin Skrtel, total Haddy. Look at that, an FPPG of 3.8, and his salary price is only $3,900. In other words, DraftKings has revised his value down because he's such an ineffective player on DraftKings. On DraftGoal, however, I'm really happy with picking up Skrtel. You with me, David? Like, you're still with me?
Yeah, kind of clear as mud. Is it? Is it sort of like, if the ball ends up in the guy's zone quite a lot, he might be worth picking. If the ball if he has a lot of touches, he could be worth picking. Is that sort of, so like the old days, we had like Colin Hendry, the defender for Blackburn Rovers, who just sort of jumped in front of the ball every time someone took a shot. Yeah. He would have been a great pick.
He would accumulate a lot of points. Of course, the problem with Hendry was that he was often out of position, so often had to hurl himself in front of the ball. But he also captained the Premiership winning team, so we have to give him a bit of credit there.
Sure, and for the American viewers who are sort of familiar with NFL, he does have a bit of the Ray Rice about him, and I'll just leave it at that.
Right. Now
you can Google that later.
I'm already familiar with Ray Rice, but you're the one who's going to get the call from the lawyers, so I don't care.
Okay.
All right. Moving on. So I've got Steve Harper in goals. David, why don't you hazard a guess as to why I've gone for the Hull reserve keeper, who's recently become, could we call him first choice? He's certainly been selected ahead of McGregor the last couple of games.
Going by previous logic, he's going to be busy, isn't he? Away at Spurs. Harry Kane in the papers this morning in the UK, allegedly subject to a £45 million bid from Man United in the summer.
Not going to happen.
Not going to happen. Okay.
Not going to happen.
So he's not, and he was seen modelling the new strip for next season this week, big week for Harry Kane. You can see Harper being busy. Any other reason for picking him? He must have been cheap.
Cheap as chips. It allows me to pick, to invest my money elsewhere.
If he saves like say 5 shots, okay, he might let in say 2 or 3, but if he saves 5 shots, does that make him a value pick versus the loss of a clean sheet? The sort of like the positives outweighing the negatives in that?
No, I don't think so, because obviously you are looking for a clean sheet from your defensive-minded players. Also, you run the risk. Certainly, what was going through my mind when I picked Harper was Hull really need to win. They really need to beat Spurs. Spurs' season is over. I think they've been absolutely honking for weeks now. If Kane's not banging them in, I don't think anyone's banging them in for them. And I just think Hull might just rise to it. It's such a gamble. But the risk is, of course, if Hull go chasing the game, you could see them losing 2 or 3. So this is one of those picks where I'm going to be completely results orientated. I am either going to look like, just value pick genius or an absolute muppet.
It's like a sort of a GPP pick, isn't it? Because, Harry Kane's going to be highly owned. Harper's going to be low owned. If you get it right and Hull sneak a 1-0 or something, you'll be a hero.
Yeah, I hope so. And, we're playing for glory here. I'm picking Steve Harper because I want all the tweets from you guys coming in saying what a pick.
Mm-hmm. All men must die.
Sure. Okay, moving through the defence. Anyone that particularly stands out, or anything that particularly stands out that you want to run the rule over?
Well, Mangala, kind of like your whole, maybe Cresswell would be a pick that you might see in daily fantasy, but I think Huth, Skrtel and Mangala, you just don't really see them getting picked too often, do you? They're all based upon your earlier premise of they could be active, but Man City, that's a game they're playing on Sunday away to Swansea. You think is that a sort of clean sheet type thought process? You thinking they might?
Yeah, it's a clean sheet pick.
Yeah.
Swansea are a good side. Consistently have confounded the critics this season. I don't want to like minimize the opportunity or like the probability of there being an upset in that game, but I do believe that Mangala at the price is a strong pick. Huth at Leicester has been a really terrific signing for him, good and experienced.
Yeah.
Probably the slowest footballer ever, would you say?
Right. Okay. Maybe the
But
heaviest though.
yeah, he's a big unit. He's strong as hell, and they're playing Sunderland away. Real crunch tie for both teams. I could see. Well, with Leicester's recent trajectory, actually Sunderland have done quite well recently too. But I just see, probabilistically speaking, probably slightly more chance of Leicester sneaking the win, and I would also say considerably more chance of Leicester keeping a clean sheet. Could well be a 0-0.
Yeah,
Could
well,
be
I
a
mean,
1-0.
yeah, jumping over to the sort of the betting odds, they have both teams at exactly the same price
Not a massive surprise, I guess.
to win the game.
Yeah.
And in terms of like sort of goals, sort of scored, I would say that the line is looking at a sort of 2.5 goal line. Surprisingly, that's quite high.
I'd go unders.
Yeah.
I'd go unders. I could see it being a 0-0, a 1-1, or maybe a 1-0 Leicester. Well, I mean, what kind of prediction's that? Okay, it's going to be a narrow victory or a draw.
There'll definitely be a result.
There will be a result. And then in my midfield, you can see like the power of picking sort of cheaper guys at the back, because I don't think that many goals will be scored this weekend. By the way, I mean, at the risk of, well, there's no risk involved. I'm totally going to do it. Pat myself on the back for my premonition last week that, it would be unders week. There just weren't many goals. Apart from, of course, Man City papping QPR 6-0, but we had
Aguero.
We had Aguero and we had Silva. And Zabaleta.
He didn't do anything though, Zabaleta.
He still accumulated us some points.
Yeah, but we wanted Kolarov and you talked me off him and he scored.
Yeah,
he
had
an assist.
Thanks for that.
Okay. That's okay.
I was looking good there for a minute.
I think our ship had sailed long before that on the Saturday though.
We were still in the hunt up until Giroud didn't do anything for Arsenal on the Monday.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Oh well, we did try it. What sort of games? When I think about this, and we're looking at this DraftGoal site. I'm thinking a lot of people aren't going to really know the rules, and the games must be they're quite easy almost. Do you think they're a wee bit
like a soft standard of opponent?
A little bit, maybe. Do you think they are, or do you think like that?
Look, it's not a site that's going to be attracting the pros.
Mm.
It's a bit more recreational. If you're sort of familiar with poker, you're looking less at Poker Stars and more at maybe one of the softer fringe kind of sites.
Yeah. Do you mean that's how it's set out? But because daily fantasy soccer is just like so embryonic, I kind of think sometimes that that theory is good, but actually everyone's a pro. Is maybe soccer the hardest game?
Okay, yeah, I see what you mean. If you're willing to invest the time, then
I think so.
You're probably quite advanced. Yeah, I can't really disagree with that. What I will say is that you don't need to pick a home. That's the beauty of daily fantasy sports right about now. There are so many sites all offering tremendous sign-up bonuses and really strong value. Lots of overlay kicking about most sites. And of course, quick plug, this is why we have the super lobby, so that you can, consult where the biggest overlay is. Look at that just front page at DraftKings right now. We've got some juicy overlay in the EPL fixtures this week. So you don't need to, I find the loyalty that some people show towards their sites baffling. This isn't like poker where rake back is a big deal. For poker players, if you're not familiar, poker players get rewarded for their loyalty to a certain site, whereas we haven't yet seen that sort of movement in DFS. Therefore, my advice, go on to dailyfantasylobby.com, sign up at a few different operators, and play wherever the games look soft.
Yeah, sure. Definitely agree. Jumping back to your team.
Yep.
It wouldn't be DFS day if Sigurdsson wasn't in it. So he basically can jump across all sites. So he's like sort of like the omnipresent Sigurdsson.
That's because he sees a lot of the ball. He's the heartbeat, the metronome, if you will, of the Swansea team. He's always on the ball. He shoots a ton. He scores a lot. He takes their set pieces. And yet he plays for kind of an unfashionable club. So he's never priced that highly. Look, he's not a cheap pick. You're surprising no one if you pick Gylfi, because everybody knows he's a tremendous DFS pick. But there's a reason for that. Really terrific player, really terrific DFS player.
Okay.
Someone that I'd like to talk about, if I may, is Coquelin at Arsenal. They're playing Man U this weekend.
You may talk about him.
And he is a great example of the difference between DraftGoal and DraftKings. So on DraftGoal, where you do get rewarded a lot more for making the intricate plays, you can pick these sort of defensive-minded midfielders a lot more because they're making interceptions, they're making a lot of short passes, they're breaking up play, they're involved in the action quite a bit. So Coquelin is a player that, he's only, I think he's $4,100, which is dirt cheap. That is, quick maths, about a 25th of the budget. So you could have a team full of Coquelins twice over and still be within budget.
I'm desperate to make a joke. I have to bite my tongue.
What about a pun on his name?
It's just his name, yeah. Just his name. So.
Oh, come on. Okay. Do it.
No, I'm not doing it. We're a family show.
We're going to end up with the explicit logo beside our billing on iTunes, and we really don't want that.
Okay, well, let's just stay clear from that. Okay, we've already got one lawsuit in this podcast. We'll just hold it. We just hold it at that then.
But one other thing to add about Coquelin, not only is he cheap at $4,100, he's got an FPPG of 14, right? That's enormous value. So he, honestly, I can see myself picking him just a standard like Gylfi every week on DraftGoal and just building a team around him. Yeah,
I suppose in like the sort of like literature for DraftGoal, they talk about and the rules and everything else, they talk about sort of, Matic, how good a player he would be in sort of, this version. So I suppose you can away what we're looking for is we're looking for like, not Matic, because everyone's going to win him. We're looking for the other Matic, aren't we? So,
absolutely.
So Coquelin could be your Matic.
And Coquelin in the Arsenal team that rotates a lot because they're so top-loaded with attacking midfield talent, Coquelin's a first pick. He's the heartbeat.
Yeah, well, you'd have to like all the Arsenal players because they touch the ball a lot and not much happens. So that sounds as if they could be good for this sort of version. And all of it, maybe Man U actually could you could start to see a few more Man U players, guys like Danny Blind. I don't know if he's still alive or not.
Danny Blind is
Daily Blind.
Is definitely going to be a bit past it, but Daily Blind, yeah, and Antonio Valencia is actually a great pick on DraftGoal.
Right. Yep. And even Herrera, I'd imagine, would probably be worth considering. Just any of the guys who don't really do much, but they do touch the ball a lot.
Yeah.
Hard game, obviously, this weekend against Arsenal.
That's the issue. Just out of interest, I will have a little look at Herrera, an FPPG of 12 and a price of 8k. So well within budget, and he's a decent point scorer. So yeah, absolutely backs up your theory.
Yep. Okay. Well, we don't want to give all the clues away, though. We want to let the listeners find their own little nuggets, do it.
Yeah. And just to reiterate for you American guys, DraftGoal is US facing. It's US friendly. You by all means should be playing there. If you're entering a team on DraftKings, spend a few extra minutes doing your homework. So enter one on DraftGoal too. Sure.
That sounds like a plan. Okay, well, I think that probably wraps that, doesn't it?
I'd say so. As always, we're delighted to hear from you guys. Feel free to submit teams for our perusal. We are very regular tweeters, both David and myself tweet under the @SuperLobby account. And so we're always happy to discuss not just soccer. David in particular, massive NFL and golf freak. And I guess I'm the resident soccer guy, almost by default. So if there's anything that you guys want to discuss on any sport, anything to do with the industry, we are always delighted to chat. David, how should they best get in touch with you?
Just through the Super Lobby, @SuperLobby on Twitter. I think we're checking that pretty regularly. There's no point. Well, you can get me personally on @SFL Hunter, but hit me up on Super Lobby. That's fine.
Perfect. And before you do anything, make sure you get onto Daily Fantasy Lobby to check out the projected lineups. The injury and suspension news is super important. Personally, I've fallen afoul of it. I've made picks only to have to sub them out later because I forgot to do my homework and didn't realise that player X was suspended or injured. We all do it. Make sure that you don't fall afoul of it. Check out dailyfantasylobby.com/soccer/lineups. I'm Christy.
I'm David.
And thanks very much, everybody. It was a pleasure, and we'll catch up with you next week. Bye-bye.